전리반도 금수강사.
That song has remained in my mind since the very first time I heard it. The Christian prisoners sang it holding hands while one of them died or was killed. For 17 years I worked for the leaders of the Communist Party in North Korea, and although I was totally loyal and gave all I had for the party, I was somehow betrayed by them. I was arrested and initially sent to prison and then to labor camps for 7 years. After I was arrested, I spent 14 months in a cold prison cell. I was so mistreated that till this day my facial muscles do not function normally. I was often put outside in temperatures of 35 degrees below 0 Celsius. My limbs froze. I also have problems with my legs, and my body aches all the time. 8 teeth were also broken. There were over 2,000 women in the camp. Many were in prison because they had said something negative about the government. I experienced many things that tore my heart to shreds. For example, the mother of 2 children of 5 and 7 years old was brought into the camp. Her children were very hungry and she had been scavenging food in the fields. She was arrested by the police after she had replied to a question they asked by saying, "How is it possible to allow our children to starve?" That was sufficient reason to lock her up in prison. Many women in the camp were pregnant, but it was forbidden for Christian babies to be born alive in the camp. Christian babies had to be killed into the 3rd generation. Expectant mothers were injected with poison, and after 24 hours of excruciating pain, the baby was dead in the womb. But if the baby was alive at birth, the guards immediately killed the baby in front of the mother. Those 7 years in the camp, I lived with Christians who were imprisoned for their faith, because in North Korea it is a crime to believe in God. At first, I thought they were psychiatric patients, but after 7 years, I was convinced they were not. The guards would give Christians the most dangerous jobs. Christians were also not allowed to look up with their heads held up or to look upwards towards heaven. They had to keep their eyes to the ground with their backs bowed. They were given hardly any food and dirty water to drink, and they had to work 18 hours a day. Their bodies had shrunk and their vertebrae were curved. Hundreds were imprisoned for believing in Jesus. Although they were tortured, they never recanted their faith. There is no place on earth where Christians suffer as much as in North Korea. I noticed that at the very last moment of their lives, they held each other's hands and sang a song. I couldn't understand it. In such terrible circumstances, they were singing songs with so much joy. The guards would come and kick them in their faces because they were singing. I will never forget those scenes. I saw guards destroying the believers' faces with their kicking. Sometimes I have nightmares about it. In December 1992, by a miracle of God, I was released from prison. After 7 years in the concentration camp, no one who had come in with me was still alive. My release was announced publicly in front of 6,000 prisoners in the main square. When my name was called, all the prisoners looked at me. The Christians looked at me from their bowed positions, and their eyes were begging me, saying, "This freedom is not only for you. You were released to share about us." They couldn't say the words, but their eyes spoke volumes. I will never forget that light in their eyes. Those 7 long years, I saw that despite all their suffering, the Christians did not deny their Lord, the same God who kept me alive and brought me to South Korea. I want to serve that God faithfully all my life, even if it means suffering. 삼천리 반도 위